So, welcome back to another episode. And today, I'm going to review Fatal Fury 1 on the Neo Geo AES. Now, the first time I ever saw Fatal Fury 1 was in 1991. I was in an arcade, my local arcade, and the big game at the time was Street Fighter 2. And I spent every single day at the arcade playing this game. And there was always a Neo Geo cabinet to my right, and it always had 4 games on it. It always had Magician Lord, NAM 1975, Top Players Golf, and Baseball Stars. But one particular day, I came in to play Street Fighter, and I'm playing it, and I look over and I'm like, I did a double take. There was a brand new game loaded into the Neo Geo, and that was the first time I ever saw a changeover of games in this Neo Geo machine. I thought it was always these 4 games. I didn't realize that they were going to change them. And there was 2 games in there. There was Fatal Fury, that was the brand new game that was added, and Ninja Combat. As soon as I was finished playing my game of Street Fighter, I ran over to this machine and I just stared at it. I stared at this brand new game, Fatal Fury, another fighting game. And it was so colorful and brand new characters and really weird, unique special moves. But I did notice that you could only pick 3 characters, and that was Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard, and Joe Higashi. But I can't describe at the time. It was really interesting that these characters really felt very different and very unique to this world. They felt like they did fit. Now at first I thought, oh wow, what is this? It's a Street Fighter clone. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. The game was directed by Takashi Nishiyama, and that was the creator of Street Fighter 1. I had no idea. He had left Capcom, he had done Street Fighter 1, he had left Capcom, gone to work at SNK, and the first game he developed was Fatal Fury. So in a really weird sense, this is kind of a sequel-esque to Street Fighter 1. This was the progression that he went next. So it all makes sense now. That's how that happened. I always thought it was a clone. I was just like, wow, it was just weird timing because Fatal Fury 1 was getting developed at the same time as Street Fighter 2. But what was different than Street Fighter was, this was the first game that I had seen for a fighting game where you could jump from the foreground to the background and vice versa at any time that you wanted to. So you could be in the background and jump into the foreground and kick a character, or you could run into the background to escape a character's attack as well. So it opened up a lot of new strategies. It was very unique and very different. And you could also do combos in the game, but they were a little limited. So the game all takes place in Southtown, and it's hosting the King of Fighters tournaments. Now, this is the very first time that we ever hear about the King of Fighters. Now, obviously, we know that later on in 1994, they did the King of Fighters 94, and that's where it all began, was Fatal Fury 1. That's where the tournament was first announced, and we know that they created a long series of games after that for King of Fighters. So the bad guy of the game is Geese Howard, and he's behind the tournament. And we find out that 10 years prior, he had killed Andy and Terry's father. And so that's the motivation for the game, is that Terry and Andy and their friend Joe are entering the tournament to finally meet Geese and take their revenge. Now the game was, to Street Fighter, a lot more simpler. There was only 3 buttons. There was a kick, a punch, and a throw button. But I also think that was to do with the Neo Geo layout of buttons. There was no more buttons that they could have used. There was only 4 buttons. So that's what they had to work with, and it worked pretty okay. Also, like Street Fighter, besides their regular moves, characters could do super moves. And there's a few funny ones. I always loved Terry Bogard's moves, rising tackle and all that kinds of stuff. But he did one move, the Power Wave, and I swear to God, in the arcade, all I could hear when he did, the punch into the ground was ground wheat. That's all I could ever hear was ground wheat. I know it's supposed to be Power Wave, but I don't know why. That's the only thing. Me and my friends talked about that over the last 20 plus years. We always talk about that because in the later games it sounds a little bit more legible. Like he's saying, you know, power wave. But in the first one, it just sounded like ground wheat. Too funny. We always thought that was hilarious. Also, what's interesting, in an old Neo Geo newsletter, they refer to it as Napalm Punch. But it also sounds like ground wave as well. Another interesting thing that Fatal Fury did was a day and night system and a weather system. So in certain stages, it would turn from the morning to the evening. And in other stages, you'd be playing, you'd be doing a fight, and all of a sudden it would start raining. And I thought that was pretty cool at the time. So this game had bonus games as well, and it was quite funny. The bonus game was that you would wrestle this machine who had like this robotic arm, and you had to hit the A button really fast. You'd be going back and forth a whole bunch of times, and if you finally win, you win. But yeah, the timing on that was kind of weird as well. So Fatal Fury introduced a lot of unique characters, like Duck King, a nightclub dancer with a mohawk. Richard Meyer, a guy who loves hanging on the ceilings doing kicks. Michael Max, a boxer who just loves hanging at the beach beating the crap out of people every day. Tung Fu Ru, a guy who is not what he appears. He looks like an old little master, and he is, but he can transform into this spinning giant attack, and even in Fatal Fury Special, which is later on, you get to see more of his super moves, which are very cool. And next up is another fighter from Thailand who has moves that are very similar to Joe. And Raiden, a wrestler that, again, at that time was like, I couldn't believe how big the sprites were for this character. I was like, oh my god, look at the size of Neo Geo characters. He was honestly the biggest character I'd seen, and until Earthquake in Samurai Showdown. And Billy Kane, whom I'm telling you is a major pain in the ass in this game. He is so tough when you get to him. And Geese Howard, the badass motherfucker of this game. Love this guy. Man, I love Geese Howard's character. I always did in Fatal Fury. And he summons Andy and Terry and Joe to Geese Tower for a final confrontation in his personal arena. And what's great when you get to Geese Tower and you're fighting Geese, which is a tough battle, let me tell you, if he wins, he kicks you out the window. It's pretty cool. I always enjoyed that. It was frustrating though when you see your character like falling down and you're like, oh god damn it, not again. And oh god damn it, not again. And oh god damn it, not again. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough battle. But how satisfying when you were finally fighting against Geese and you kicked his fucking ass out the window. And you see him falling down, you're like, take that, you goddamn bastard. And here's the American AES release of the game, and I wanted this game for a long time. I finally picked it up a bunch of months ago, and it's so goddamn nostalgic. And I would remember walking into stores, and I always remember the Neo Geo was, I don't know why, on a top shelf. They wanted to keep it away from kids trying to steal it. It was up on the top shelf, and I always remember there was always Fatal Fury and Magician Lord. I always remember seeing that. It really stuck out to me. And as a kid, I'd be like, oh my god, I would love to have that. But the machine was $700, and I think the game's, Fatal Fury at the time was about $250. It's crazy to think about those kinds of prices at the time. But yeah, the American box is cheesy, and I love it. It's part of the early 90s look, so that's one thing it's got going for it. The Japanese cover was a little bit more cooler, a little bit more serious, but I love the 90s, version of the AES, American cover. Oh my god, there was so many ports of this game to the PC, Super Nintendo, and the Genesis. There's also a couple of animes based on the series of Fatal Fury. There's Fatal Fury the Hungry Wolf and Fatal Fury the Movie. I think I've said it before, Fatal Fury the Movie is its own unique story where they go looking for the armor of God. It's a little bit hokey, the art style is its own thing, and I'm not a huge fan of the movie, but if you want to follow the story of the first game, and it does it pretty well, and that's Fatal Fury Hungry Wolf, the OVAs, and I gotta tell you, this is pretty fun. It's pretty old school, but it's pretty fun. Now, I know I'm wearing my nostalgic glasses here. I never said I wasn't. Is the game great? It's not a great controlling game. It's very sluggish. It's very kind of slow. But it's a huge game for the Neo Geo. It was the beginning of the entire fighter genre that was about to come out for the Neo Geo. This was the beginning, and this was the foundation. So in a way, you really have to appreciate the time that this game came out and what it really was showing you. And I love the game. But it's a nostalgic love. It's not one where I play the game and like, man, it controls so wonderfully. It's more a memory of a different time when the Neo Geo had just first started, and this was the very first fighting game on it. And that was Fatal Fury 1. So anyways, guys, until next time.